The news today includes what's going on in Vegas as the NBA had their league meetings. And I know there had been some question as to whether or not they might even announce, expansion right now. That doesn't really feel like the process of a real organization like the NBA, where everything has to be studied and official channels. And have you followed any of this back and forth with Bill Simmons and David Aldridge at all? Where Bill Simmons has been saying that James Dolan, the owner of the Knicks and kind of noted crazy person, is, really against expansion. Just really does not want to mess with a successful business model. And not only has he been against it, but that he is, trying to build a coalition, and that he's built enough of a coalition that, there's starting to be some movement in that direction against expansion.
That is real, by the way.
Oh, I'm sure it is. And then David Aldridge was like, I'm not listening to what some podcaster says. And Bill's I'm pretty well connected in the NBA. I don't know what you're talking. Like, I'm not just a podcaster. Thanks. And so anyway, there's been this whole back and forth that I was reading about yesterday.
Yeah.
Regardless, I think that this is not a negative step. I think this is more positive than it is negative. But obviously, there's no way to spin this as, all right, this is now happening.
Okay, so the timing of this trip that I was on was unbelievably fortuitous with this topic in particular. And I had no idea how ideal the timing would be, as I got to be around people that are truly,
in the know.
Yes, and I'm not going to mention any names or anything, but honestly, I was flying back and I was listening to Adam Silver, and it was late. Golly.
You want me to play the sound real quick so people hear it, what Adam Silver had to say?
That's commissioner of the NBA.
Yes, here he is.
Expansion was discussed both at a committee level and at the board, and ultimately the league office was tasked by our board with doing an in-depth analysis of all the issues around expansion, both economic and non-economic. Of course, the non-economic issues include dilution of talent, how it could potentially affect competition around the league if we were to expand, how you would stock those teams, all those related issues. The economic issues, as I've talked about before, they're as we knew would be the case in these discussions among the board. They're very complex because in how you would potentially value the opportunity has a lot to do with your projections on the future growth of the league.
Yeah. So here's, I think, the challenge for Detlef Schrempf, who I saw tweeting about this. Here's why Tim Booth, Chris Daniels, local guys were down there at this. Here's why folks, that are close to it thought there may be some significant news, because last fall, Salk, Silver said the same thing. We're studying it. We're looking at it. He's even hinted at Vegas and Seattle, right? They do so much already in Vegas, all the summer league, and he went into that aspect of it. Seattle has been a known, the arena's in place. Obviously, Bonderman was in the estate, so connected, and his daughter now that's, the possible future owner and all of that. So they've been doing it. He said that last fall, and then he said it in the spring again. So it's been the fall, it's the spring, and now we're in late July. Like, okay, at every turn you've been studying this. So the takeaways are three, and I said these quickly earlier. I'll dive into them a little deeper. Number one, they've been working on this for some time, and what they cannot figure out, and what the James Dolans and our buddy down with the Clippers and others are saying is, like, I do not want to divide this pie two more ways. I'm already slicing it 30 ways, and it's a good deal for us. It's a lot of money with the new TV media deal, and you've got to tell me and prove to me that there's going to be more revenue coming in if we slice this two more ways, and that somebody's willing to pay billions and billions and billions and billions in expansion fee to somehow line our wallets enough to slice this pie now 32 ways instead of 30. And that there are a bunch of owners also on top of that, Salk, like a New York City co-op that didn't want Livy Dunn living there, that also look at it and go, I don't want two more knuckleheads. Like, we've seen complicated owners in this league. Dolan is a complicated owner. So do we want to, and do we trust who's going to come in is somebody that we really want in our co-op? So that's number one. Number two,
on the other side of that, though, just to kind of jump in there, it's not just that they have to slice it two more ways. It's also that they get, let's call it $260 million a piece right off the bat. Like
With
that
the
expansion.
expansion
Let's say you bring
Yep.
in two teams and it's $4 billion apiece. Just quick math. That's 133 plus billion apiece, or 133 plus million apiece. Excuse me.
Sure.
So right off the bat, you would get 200.
Is that good enough in 2 and 3 and 4 years
Well-
versus if we don't slice that and that $7 billion TV deal that's
Yep.
that's helping
But
pay
it's
for our facilities?
$260 million that you can invest in things. I mean, like you can get return on that investment as well. So,
Okay.
I mean, like I think it's a little more complicated than just saying, well, we have to split it 2 more ways.
That's number one. And that financial model is complicated by all of the different sales. And I'll get to that in a second. Number 2 is NBA Europe feels like a higher priority than expansion.
Yep.
And why would NBA Europe be a higher priority than expanding your own league in your country? Because, again, of revenue, of unbelievable revenue that would come to these owners. So, Salk, when they look at, oh, that's nice with an expansion fee, but this NBA Europe model and what these folks in Europe are willing to pay and partner with us, far greater than some of these expansion fees when they just run those models. So NBA Europe, a big deal.
Can I play you a little sound to go with that, Brock? Because let's go back. You remember the interview we did with June Lee a couple of weeks ago, who was talking about private equity coming into the various leagues? Do you remember what he said about leagues trying to make more money and looking for new revenue sources?
The NFL is obviously the most popular sport in the United States, but Major League Baseball and the NBA might be better positioned for this kind of global growth of sports because the games are simpler, the rules aren't as complicated, and there's already kind of basketball culture that the NBA has invested in for, going on 2 decades now, dating back to like the establishment of NBA Africa, and obviously Asia with Japan and Korea, now Taiwan. They have established baseball cultures. And so there's already kind of an appetite for this kind of stuff. And so I think over the course of the next 2 decades, you're going to start seeing more private equity money coming in. Like, this is all kind of a downstream of the ownership mentality towards continued growth of wanting to make the valuations of these franchises bigger, even if they're not making as much money on a year-to-year basis. And a lot of owners are trying to find the balance between those two things.
And oh, by the way, where's Giannis from? Where's Jokic from? Where's Wemby from? Europe. Europe is producing great players. So the opportunity in the revenue for that is off the charts. And then lastly, and I said this earlier, for the first time in 17 years, Salk, I think, I'm not going to hear owners cry poor, but that these numbers, when you start to look at the cost of this versus the revenue in return, start to not pencil. And the fear of a bubble being burst. And I asked somebody in the know, I'm not a bright man, but should I look at Mark Cuban? Should I look at Bonderman in Boston? Should I look at the estate of Paul Allen?
Not Boston, but the Boston ownership, yes.
The Boston ownership group, of
Wick
which he was.
Grossbeck, yeah.
Yes. The estate of Paul Allen. Should I look at some of these? And Jeannie Buss and the Buss family in LA. Should I look at some of these and think these are pretty brilliant billionaires who have had to gauge market conditions in their life? And every one of them's a little different, and it's not a perfect, but all of those, is that just a coincidence? Or is it a lot of really bright billionaires going, yep, maybe now is the time to make this move?
Yes, but you're also looking at Stan Kroenke buying more, and you're looking at the Walton family getting more involved with the Broncos, and you're looking at Mark Walter in LA buying the Lake. I mean, like
the Lakers brand.
It's so I think it's a little of both of those
That's
things,
not one.
right?
That's not two. That's not three. That's four. That's five. There's
no doubt that is all
is
worth looking at.
a lot.
Also, owners crying poor is like, this isn't the first time I've heard that from them. Like, find me an owner that doesn't say they're
this
going
isn't
broke.
crying poor, but this is timing the bubble. And if you know markets and what our history has shown with things, this will never burst. This is just going to go to infinity.
Right, that doesn't work.
That doesn't work.
That doesn't work at all.
That tends to not work.
So your takeaway when it's all said and done is?
This is not a slam dunk by any means. And you and I have talked about this is coming. They've already got NBA future locker room in a locker room that is built in that arena. There is nobody better placed and better ready and move-in ready with great ownership opportunity than here in Seattle.
Right.
But the rest of the owners are complicating this thing, as are the market.
Yeah, they're not going to
conditions.
expand anywhere else. You're not. There's no risk of like the NBA decides they'd rather go to Kansas City.
No.
But whether or not they just ever want to do this because of the way the finances work, I think are all very real questions.